Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're watching around the world. This is the Football Terrace. We're talking Arsenal and their formidable start to the Premier League and Champions League. We're looking at Liverpool as well and why this agenda that they're lucky is really triggering rivals so much indeed. Also looking ahead at Manchester United and reports that Southgate may be the new Manchester United manager should Ruben Amorim get sacked. We're going to delve into that and much more on the show, but make sure the like button is hit if you haven't done so already. Let me take these earphones off. I don't need these even on. Actually, no, I've got some videos to play, so I do need them on. But make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribing. Get that bell notification turned on as well. We'll be opening up the lines for you to have your say as well. 1 second. Something isn't working right here. There we go. So updating one little bit, but let me know where you're watching from around the world. Also, it's always nice to know where our viewers are tuning in from. Lots to go through on this Thursday afternoon. Of course, we're live again tonight after the Champions League games for City and Newcastle, respectively. But hello, everybody. United will slap Chelsea is the first comment that I see here. It could happen. It will happen. A Blue Lion also says Chelsea will unleash frustration on. There's frustration from their loss to Bayern on Manchester United. It could happen. It could happen. The Southgate meltdown from Goldbridge. I'm going to trigger Mark even more. I'm not even against it. I'm not personally against it at all. We're going to delve into all of that. We're going to take your comments, take your views on all of these subjects. And look, that is where we're going to start today. And Manchester United have been linked with a new manager now for the best part. Well, maybe a couple of weeks, really. I think the Burnley win kind of calmed the media news down. But what we're now seeing is a lot of talk and a lot of attention around the potential of a new manager replacing Ruben Amorim. I know the media ports were kind of shut down. I know the media ports were kind of scoffed at a little bit by some other reporters when it was claimed there is a 3-game target for Ruben Amorim to save his job. My personal belief is there's an element of truth to it. And there nearly always is with those stories. There's always an element of truth to a certain degree for us to sort of sink our teeth into, for us to debate, for us to go through. Do I think he'll lose his job imminently? It depends on what happens this weekend. Depends what happens against Brentford. I think he is hanging on by a thread. And that's why that's why United are linked to new managers, because United are out there doing due diligence. Man United are out there renewing interest. They're making contact. They're seeing who would be available. And as Ben Jacobs pointed out today, this always goes on. This always happens. And in fact, I'd say there's always contingency plans. And just to let you know what he said, Ben Jacobs on the United stand earlier on today said there will always be interest in elements of succession planning simply because that's what well-run clubs do. And as much as United are not well run, all clubs, typically speaking in football, have a list of managers they have marked down. It's a working pipeline. It's a working list, a working short list, a living short list that can change, where they jot the name down of managers who would be good replacements, up and coming names, maybe market opportunities. Maybe there's rumors of let's just say Luis Enrique come December. There's talk he might leave at the end of the season because he's unhappy with living in Paris or the conditions at PSG. He might go onto a lot of football clubs' shortlist, and they may go, listen, we'll put out a few feelers, see what he's looking to do. Does he want a sabbatical? Does he want a holiday? Does he want to come to England? Does he want to go back to Spain? Because that could be of interest to us. So all clubs have these lists, and I think it's really important to remember that. Jacobs goes on to say, I don't think it'll be Carrick or Jose Mourinho. I'm very glad to hear it won't be Jose Mourinho. They are not names I'm hearing. So again, Ben Jacobs hearing names that are on the Man United shortlist, and not all of them are there. Many of the names they appreciated date back to the original process when they hired Ruben Amorim. But of course, they were looking at other names. One of those names was Gareth Southgate. That was widely reported at the time. I'm not aware yet as to whether he's ready to dive back into club management, but we know that he was definitely discussed and was specifically something that Sir Jim Radcliffe was driving. So I think what's really interesting here, Mark Goldbridge here saying this man runs our football club and thinks Southgate is an option. the thing for me is I personally think Southgate is an option. I think Gareth Southgate is an option for Man United. And the reason that I believe that is because we're not the Man United we think we are. The Man United we once were is finished. Finished. And I was talking yesterday to Hussam and to Mo about this and how I gave the example to Hussam. I said, how much do you squat in the gym? And he said about 120 kilos. Why can't you squat 200 kilos? Because he hasn't trained for that. He'd have to build himself up. It's going to take time to get to that point. It's similar to how football clubs, yes, United once upon a time could squat the 200 kg, the ultimate goal. Let's just pretend that's the ultimate goal for a moment. Live in that hypothetical world. We once upon a time could do it. United fans live in this notion, with a few tweaks, with a few minor changes, we could be back to that level. But we can't. This isn't, in the example that I gave, someone I know that understands weight training, is a PT, said, well, if you've lifted 200 kg, if you've squatted that before, then setting a 2-year plan to get back to that level is maybe a little bit weak and a little bit poor of you, because there's the muscle memory. You've done it before, a few tweaks to your diet, train hard. You should be able to get there much, much quicker and sooner. And I agree with that notion. But Ineos and Barada, this current crop of players and our current manager, they've never been at United's peak, which is where we as fans want our club to get back to. We have never, ever, ever been there with this group. In fact, most of the players in our squad, go through them. How many of them have actually played regularly for title winning and Champions League winning teams? You've got Casemiro. Who else? Mason Mount won a Champions League, yes, but Chelsea weren't competing for league titles back then. He's won a Champions League. Who else is there? Tell me in the live chat. Who else in this Man United setup has been at that level? Yes, the name Man United has been there. We remember it as fans, but we're not that club anymore. And as much as I'm not sitting here and this is where it will get twisted. Oh my God, Terry thinks that Southgate's the man to get United back to the top. I'm not sure there is a man out there right now that if we were to sack and move on Ruben Amorim, I don't know if there is a man right now. I don't know if there is an individual right now who is good enough to take over the mess, help us through the rebuild, help implement the system, keep the players on side, get us back to competing, and then get us over the top. I don't know who that person is. I think what we need, and part of the reason there isn't a manager, I think, that fits that bill, and I don't think there's one you could name that would convince me. You may believe it, fair due to you, but I don't think there's one that would actually deliver in that regard. And I think that is significant. I think that is important, and I think that's worth discussing, because whether it be the players already, this manager, they're downing tools, they don't want to play. Actually, listen to this. This is so interesting what Ben Jacobs said in relation to this. And it tells me that there are at least some players, and I trust Ben Jacobs here, that are downing tools or doubting the manager, whatever phrase we want to use. He said here, listen to this. Some players feel there needs to be a more direct connection between the manager and players. The hell does that mean? Just do your jobs. And they feel he needs to go out of his comfort zone more. I think they might mean new style or adaptation. Fair. However, the senior players are pointing back and addressing the group, saying it is not just the system or the manager, the players are underperforming. And I like hearing that. It's great that we have a senior group that are pushing it. But do you hear the real problem there? The real problem in that, the real issue in that, is there are multiple players in this team that are looking at the scenario and saying, I don't want to do this. I don't like the system. I don't think it's going to work. I don't like the manager's approach. But come on, guys, you're underperforming. They're not taking accountability for themselves. That, whoever the next manager is, they're going to have a 30, 40, 50, 60% portion of this group do it to them. How do I know that to be almost a fact? The reason I know that to be almost a fact is because this squad is a Frankenstein squad made up of multiple managers and multiple systems which means there is no one way of playing that is going to suit everybody. The ones who suddenly don't suit something or don't like the new approach, the new attitude, the new training methods, etc., they will kick off. I think I'm within my rights to believe it because that is what's happened on a regular basis. So for me, I look at the Southgate scenario and I'm not sitting here salvating. I'm not sitting here and thinking to myself, oh my God, it's the greatest appointment ever. Southgate, you can make me whole again. Get the waistcoat out. Oh, thank you. That's not what I'm thinking. It's not how I'm viewing this situation at all. But he may be what we need. Someone who comes in. I actually think the players will like him. I think he's a bit like Ollie in the sense of a real people person, not a people pleaser, but a real people person. I think in the short term, he could make us harder to beat. I think our win percentage would go up, and I think the fans might calm down a little bit. All I would then hope for is that we don't make the Ollie mistake, which is sticking with Ollie for too long. We got to that Europa League final. We were finishing inside the top four, coming second in the league. We got the squad to a pretty good point. What we should have done after Ollie is gone out and then got an elite manager who loved that group of players and went, I can make that go to the next level. We didn't, and it all crumbled and fell apart. So for me, I'm not against the idea. It's not my number one choice, but I'm not sitting there thinking to myself, yeah, this is disastrous. We're going to get even worse. I don't actually think that's possible. Ruben Amorim is not getting the best out of this group. Lots of them are not buying into him. But I don't think there is a silver bullet. I don't think if you got Conte, I don't think Luis Enrique, I don't think De Zerbi, I don't think... Last night I saw people in some of my group chats, oh, United, go get me Simeone, go get me Simeone, what, just go to that next level. Not on your Nelly, mate. Not on your Nelly. Diego Simeone, De Zerbi, they come into the club, and I see a comment here, it says De Zerbi would bring style. Yeah, he would, there's no doubt. I'm not doubting them as managers. I'm not doubting them as coaches. But you know what their systems entail? The hard work needed, the running through brick walls needed, the determination needed. 50% of this squad is going to go, no, sir. Thank you, sir. But no, sir. And step away. It's going to happen. That's how my uncle used to speak when he didn't want something. We were out. He was like, anyone want any more drinks? You go, no, sir. I was like, why? I don't know why he did it. It's just the noise he used to make. Pop back in my head. Big up, Unc. So for me, it's like Southgate, Nuno. I'm not against it. Oliver Glasner is maybe a little bit more fashionable, a little bit more, has the media on his side a bit more. He's got the streets a bit more, but he's very similar. My issue with the likes of Areola, De Zerbi, Simeone is a elite version, is that I don't think this group is ready to be pushed. I think we've got... Do you know what we are? I'll use a gym example again. Okay, I'm going to use a gym example again here for you all. No. We shouldn't go back to Jose, and we certainly shouldn't go back to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It won't be Jose now anyway. He's gone Benfica, and we shouldn't go back to Ole. I tell you what we are. We are an extremely overweight, late middle-aged man. That person wants to run a marathon. If they run a marathon in that condition, there's a good chance it's going to go, right? You also, when someone is that unfit and that age, they can't just go in the gym, cut out all the junk food, go in the gym and smash it for an hour and a half every day, 5-6 days a week. Not like you're 21 years old. Your body can't handle it. You could do yourself a mischief, whether it be your heart, whether it be muscle rips and muscle pulls. It's something you have to slowly build to. I've actually seen people like that in the gym. And I remember a PT telling me, he had a client came to him once, and it was the first 2 weeks of the person's training. He'd go to the person's house, and it was their training was them getting up and down out of their chair and walking up and down the stairs 4 or 5 times. That was exhausting them. And it was, we'll start with that and we'll build that up ever before getting you in the gym to do a full session. I think that's where Man United are, honestly. We are even worse than I expected. So am I against Southgate? No. Do I think it's the... Do I think it would be a manager himself who would get us over the line for the major trophies? No, I do not. But could it be a point where the expectations suddenly go from fans And ironically, this is what Southgate brought to England. When Southgate came into England, because of previous past failings as a nation, because Southgate was a manager nobody wanted, we went into that 2018 World Cup. It was the first tournament of my lifetime where England fans were not expecting anything special at any level. And we got to a semi-final. We weren't particularly great we were actually okay right through then until the next Euros, where we then got to the final and lost. I then felt we were pretty decent at tournaments after that. We weren't great in the qualification levels. And there was times where he sort of bottled games, wasn't brave enough. And my mind hasn't changed about Southgate. But I think what he may be able to do is similar for Manchester United. Here says, Southgate took over England's side at their lowest with a squad full of bad attitudes. He took them back to the top and brought hope to the fans. And that would be what I would hope, and it is hopium, and hopium's allowed in football. That's what I would hope that he could help bring to Manchester United. Put the Arsenal or Liverpool players into Amorim's formation. Yeah, they would do better. And this is why I think it's a combination of the two things. When you try to implement a more sophisticated style that could yield results and could win titles, if you don't have the players for it, it lets you down. So I do think there's an element of our players not being good enough to get wins every single week, to win 65, 70, 75% of their games. But I also don't think the players have the right attitude for it. That being said, this manager doesn't want to adapt. Now, I'm not going to advocate for him adapting because I wanted a manager that had a regimented style and put it in. So I get it. What I have misread is how bad the squad is. And what I'm gutted about, and I blame Ineos for, is they haven't fixed the culture enough. The fact there are players again, and it's all public again, and it's getting into journalists again, worried about the way the manager plays, he behaves, the lack of connection. That to me is a sign of insubordination. And what I find really interesting is you'll get the high value man that will say no matter what. The manager has to take accountability. It's on him. And there is a large element of truth to this that I do agree with. They have to take a big slice of accountability. But why are we not applying that same logic to elite level athletes? Why are we not? I can allow that attitude against a manager because I, by and large, believe it. But I also think the athletes should be treated in the same way. And from my point of view and perspective, I think sometimes we put too much on managers. When a boxer had a bad training camp and cut corners and didn't want to work hard and gets knocked out, fight fans don't blame the coach very often. We blame the fighter. Football is the only sport where we protect the players almost without question, as long as we rate the individual player. Every other sport, including team sports, the managers and head coaches get far less pressure, far less scrutiny from the fans than in football. And it doesn't mean managers shouldn't get scrutiny. I've criticized Amorim every game this season as an example. But we can't allow these players off the hook again. It will kill us. It will kill us. Thank you, by the way, here. Very, very generous from my guy, Jiminy, who has gifted 5 memberships out to you guys. In fact, those memberships went to TM Red. They went to Zine. They went to João Miguel. They went to Lion and to Timu as well. So big up to yourselves, all of your memberships, and thank you very much for the donations, my friend. That means a great deal. He also said here with the members chat, hi Terry, long time no see. I've been missing all your live streams due to the Aussie time zone. I enjoy watching your recorded streams with breakfast and have been loving Spurs under Thomas Frank. Bro, again, Thomas Frank's been a revelation. He's been a revelation. And that's kind of how I see, by the way, I think Thomas Frank's better than Southgate, but I think it's what Man United need. We don't have a squad that is built for a singular manager to make their style thrive. I don't think we've got the fan base or the squad that would have the patience for the managers to get there. So I think what we actually need, and this is me readjusting myself because we've all got to adapt, right? Maybe what we do need is someone that adapts for a period. And maybe this is where I need to yield on some of my convictions slightly and go, actually, maybe what we need is someone that can adapt in the short term. But no matter what that manager does, it's only a short-term option, barring wins the Premier League and then keeps us challenging. Then you go, actually, maybe that was great. But you know what? If you brought in a Southgate, if you brought in a Nuno, and you got back into the top 8 this year, and then next year back into the top 4 and really hard to beat, and the squad was really coming together, I then think you go, thank you. You've got us to where we want to be. The culture's fixed. We just move on. That is when I'd be okay to a certain degree with adapting. But we've got to get it right. It's a very difficult thing to do. Thank you as well to Evan Whelan for also becoming an official member of the Terrace. That means a great deal to us, my friend. I appreciate that loads. Thank you very much. Indeed, became an official TFT member. Love that. Thank you very much. But look, we're going to take calls on that in a bit. We've got KJ backstage and Ash backstage. We're going to share the link in the live chat if any of you want to phone in as well. I'll post it in there now, so you guys can just save that, and we'll be taking your calls very, very soon. Now, I want to move on. I want to move on and talk a little bit about Arsenal, because I kind of like it when Arsenal do well. I love seeing people melt down over it. I love seeing people lose their minds over it. I love seeing the narratives. I love seeing the craziness being discussed and the craziness being talked. 3 wins from 4 in the Premier League. 4 wins from 5 in all competitions. 1 goal conceded. 0 conceded from open play. Some of their new players looking fantastic. Mascara being one of them. I think that Zubimendi has settled in fantastically to the Premier League. That performance at the weekend against Nottingham Forest was great, even though Ash and a few others said they weren't real goals. Fantastic from him. Gyökeres 2 goals in 5 now, because obviously he didn't score at the weekend. Noni looking dangerous. And you know how Noni's looking dangerous? I saw so many Arteta outers on TikTok, on X, on YouTube during the last game where he wasn't as good, losing their minds, and the swear words and pejoratives they were coming out with show you that they've had 4 games where they've not been able to attack one of their own players. Rivals have had 4 games where they couldn't attack them. And you could see that frustration coming out, but then they won the game and there was little to moan about. Here's a clip I want to play you. This is from TalkSport. So imagine this. Imagine Arsenal spent 300 odd million, packed the squad out, started the season so much better than last year, barely conceding goals, putting a lot of games to bed, starting the Champions League campaign off well. Imagine all of that, and then this is what's said. Take a little listen.
That other than Saka, we'll take Saka out of this conversation. Who's the reliable goal source? Who's the one that every time you turn around, you go, he's going to win? I think Man City have that. Haaland will get us a goal. I think Liverpool have that twice now. Isak will score, or Salah will score.
Gyökeres is the player that they brought in to do that, hasn't he?
Do you believe that is that, though? I'm not sure.
So let's listen to what he said again. So the conversation on TalkSport isn't about how they played, isn't about the great start, isn't about the lack of goals being conceded. I grew up in an era where defending, if you're a team that wanted to win major trophies, was always looked at as maybe the most important part. But let's listen to what he said again there and listen to the narrative.
Have they addressed that? Other than Saka, we'll take Saka out of this conversation.
So he's taking Saka out the conversation here. Saka's being taken out. So barring Saka,
who's the reliable goal source? Who's the one that every time you turn around, you go, he's going to win? I think Man City have that. Haaland will get us a goal. I think Liverpool have that twice now. Isak will score, or Salah will score.
Why didn't he remove Haaland? And why didn't he remove one of Liverpool's? How can you have an argument and a debate, but go, right, I'm going to remove... I know he's had his injuries last year, so the numbers weren't there. But let's remove the best and most consistent player from Arsenal. But then the examples I'll give of their title rivals includes their best and most consistent players. You see, when I call out this nonsense, people think this is about defending Arsenal. It has very little to do directly with Arsenal. It's about having honest and fair footballing conversations. Like, deep it for a moment. We'll take Arsenal's best player out the occasion, but for the debate, we'll keep Liverpool and City's in there. Now, again, if you remove Saka, that is a player that is very consistent, when fit, has very good output, who I think is on the edge of going to another level in that regard if he can stay fit. I understand the question marks over Gyökeres. Will he deliver it? Would have gone and bought him to do that. There's no guarantee. And by the way, the numbers from Alexander Isak are good, but they're not Haaland level. They've not been Mo Salah level, as an example. So they do both have, City and Liverpool, an output machine that Arsenal don't. However, they have gone and added Eze, who has got a good clinical edge to him and can score and create. Noni is going to pick them up, GA, this season. He hasn't done so yet, but his performances show that he will. Gyökeres has scored in his first 4 Premier League games, has 3 goals. And suddenly there's this, but I'm going to doubt it anyway. And to make the conversation even deeper, I'm removing Bukayo Saka. Arsenal, for me, have looked formidable so far this season. Formidable. Yes, there was some criticism from people like myself during the Liverpool game that I think they could have taken some more risks, especially in the second half. The subs could have come a little bit earlier, maybe a little bit too conservative from Mikel Arteta. A loss in that game, well, a loss happened anyway. If they'd have lost trying to win, would there be any difference? That being said, if there wasn't a spectacular free kick scored, they'd have walked away with a point. They'd have won their next game, as we've seen, and they'd be joint top of the league. It wasn't the worst approach in the world. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it was. There's been a massive overreaction to that. I even saw another thing on TalkSport. Now, this was the funniest thing for me. This one on TalkSport was amazing. Take a listen.
Bob, thanks to 2 goal-scoring subs. £250 million summer spend. Has it left them with a fully locked and loaded squad truly built for success this time?
Why are we phrasing the question based upon a result against Atletico Bilbao? A team that's, as I say, just lost at home in the last 2 games against Alaves and Osasuna without scoring a goal. I think
I have to stop. So Simon, again, this is what I mean by the lies, and I've called this out a lot for Liverpool recently as well. He's misrepresenting the truth. One of those 2 games they lost at home was a friendly during the international break. Wasn't a real game. The other game, they were the better team. They dominated, had most of the chances, conceded a goal in about the 60th minute, an own goal, and then just couldn't score against a team that was really rigid and hard to beat. I've seen that happen before. In fact, I saw that happen to Liverpool last year with Nottingham Forest at home. The previous 3 games, they won. They won their opening 3 games of the season. They were a La Liga top 4 team next year. But even when Arsenal get good results away in Europe, you have some of the most prominent voices and faces on mainstream media lying, twisting the truth, not being honest with viewers. And I think this is utterly reprehensible. There's having some banter, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, having some banter and having a laugh is not an issue. You know, Arsenal go, we're the first English team ever to win 6 games in a row against Spanish opposition. I think it gives you a little chuckle when someone says, where's your trophy for that or whatever else. Although every little achievement now by Arsenal gets met with, where's your trophy? Then the joke becomes boring. And my generation would just turn around and say, you're milking it, bruv. Like a joke stops being funny if it's done over and over and over and over again. It's like why some sitcoms become boring, because it's the same catchphrases and running jokes for 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons. Everybody gets bored and nobody watches anymore. But listening to what's being said about Arsenal, it's almost this case of they're probably going to have to win something major to stop. Because what you're also now hearing, and this is how you know they look formidable, because the bar's being raised. The bar's being raised in the sense of it's no longer they've got to start winning trophies. We'll judge them on the trophies they win. Last season, remember, mainstream media, broadcasters, ex-pro pundits, Arteta outers, rival fans, saying things like, I'd rather be in the Europa League or the Conference League and win it than be in a Champions League semi-final. Talking about how it's a disgrace that Arteta and Arsenal don't take the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup seriously enough, making a massive hullabaloo about them going out to Manchester United, and rightfully so, calling that out. Nonsense about the Conference League and Europa League thing. That doesn't need to be explained. We've gone through that before. But the part for me that stood out that I thought was absolutely exceptional in terms of this nonsense is now that they've seen the squad get deeper and there's a chance that those small domestic trophies and obviously the big domestic trophy in the FA Cup are now maybe more achievable, is they're now basically saying, yeah, but the small trophies ain't worth it, are they? The small trophies are nothing. They're moving the goalposts again so that if this season Arsenal finish second in a very close title race and win an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup, or if they win an FA Cup, are in the title race and lose a Champions League final, they can say, well, that trophy ain't enough. Has to be the major trophies. This tells me that Arsenal are looking formidable, they're looking dangerous, and people are worried about them. Whenever Arsenal start to look good, look at a different level, or look capable, and I think they look very capable at the minute with how hard they are to beat, people suddenly start moving the goalposts. So the expectations are at a point where, unless you're achieving the absolute pièce de resistance, we'll be able to attack you and slag you off and rip into you. And I think Arsenal fans should embrace this. I mean, it's terrible punditry. It really is. It feeds into the banter economy only. I think it is damaging when it comes to looking at the achievements of football clubs and to start diminishing trophies. The irony is the same people now diminishing those quote unquote, because all the trophies are smaller than the Champions League and the Prem, diminishing those smaller trophies while spending 2 or 3 years saying it's a disgrace you're not trying to win them, shows the rank hypocrisy, shows that it was never about winning trophies. It's just, how can we move the goalposts to attack? And the point I'm also making out here is, you look at both those analogies from TalkSport, or both those examples. One creates an analogy which is so weighted against Arsenal, which of course they're going to come out on the bottom. Let's remove all of Arsenal's consistent and best players and then say who else is consistent, whilst keeping all the consistent players at other teams and said, look how consistent they are. And then Simon Jordan literally lying. And I don't care that he might have slipped up. Do you know why? I sit here and stream by myself. I do my own research, but sometimes I make mistakes. This is multi-million pound companies owned by billionaires. They have full level production teams. And a lot of what I know what they talk about is scripted. I've been on TalkSport. You turn up and there is a script to what you're going to go through and what you're going to speak about. The big guys have a lot of their stuff written down for them. So this is off the back of research, and they're getting things wrong about the games they've won and lost. They're including friendlies as real games, as a way of belittling Arsenal. And I know a lot of you don't care because you like seeing Arsenal get bantered. You like seeing Arsenal get ripped into. You find it funny. But I don't think you're seeing the longer game here. It is damaging good quality analysis of football matches. And it's ruining the banter in football, because everything's become about banter. And now what I've seen Liverpool fans start to realise, God, everyone's really coming for Wirtz, aren't they? Yes, because everybody went for Grealish and everybody went for Paul Pogba and everybody went for Declan Rice, and it just goes on and on and on, and it becomes a perpetual cycle, and it's now boring. It really is. But look, I'd love to get your views. I'd love to get your opinions on that in the comments section. By the way, I want to thank Twisted Bubba for also becoming a member of the Football Terrace as well today. Thank you very much, my friend. It means a great deal to me that you have done that. And to Tumper Lion as well, also becoming a member. Sorry, gifting out a membership here on the Football Terrace to one lucky viewer. So a big thank you to you, my friend, for doing that. Let's go to some of your comments that have come through here. I want to know what you're saying on this. To be honest, their fans bring it on themselves. I don't care what their fans do, though. Fans can have banter with each other. Fans can big it up. Fans can have a laugh and a joke. This has got out of hand, and this is killing. Again, my reaction series used to just be called The Reaction. I've changed the name of it now. It's called Killing the Game. I've called it Killing the Game because I think the game of football is being, like, we've created these mad standards that have genuinely only ever been achieved by a handful of football clubs over a period of 140 years. We're getting to a point where fans are winning really good games away from home in Champions League football, and they're like, yeah, we'd prefer some more goals. People are scoring 2 or 3 goals in Premier League games and going, no, it's not really enough, is it? When the highest average of goals per game scored ever in the Premier League by one club was City, when they got average 2.7 per game once. But yet a team can score 3 goals now and feel like it doesn't mean anything. A team can win 5, 6, 7 on the bounce, draw a game, and then there's a meltdown like the whole world's coming to an end. All of this stems from this type of analysis, and I think it's damaging for the game. And if people stop enjoying it, they'll stop watching. Then where do we go? And I do feel that one of the most important parts of football is the discussion with your friends, with your family. Yes, there's got to be some fun in there and a bit of banter, but we're killing it. We're genuinely killing it. Watching some of your Chelsea guests double back on them saying Liverpool and Arsenal must win the Premier League whilst not holding themselves to the same opinion is very hypocritical. Do you know what's hypocritical about it, though? And it's a great point you raise. It is and it isn't. I think there should be a much bigger expectation on Arsenal and Liverpool to win the league, Rob, because you're better than Chelsea. It's nothing to do with the money spent per se. It's when people start using the money that it becomes hypocritical. Because as soon as you start using the money as the benchmark for what you should and shouldn't deliver, it becomes problematic. Equally, so I look at it from that point. So I was going to say something else, and there's no point going down that tangent. That's what we see here. Chelsea are a year or so still behind Arsenal and Liverpool, maybe even 2 years. I think we've seen that with the start of the season. And Chelsea are a very good team. I don't hold them to the same standard because I think Arsenal and Liverpool are better. Yes, Chelsea have spent a lot of money, but I know half of it has been spent on players that are there to make money in the future. And they've spent it, their plan is to spend on a lot of young players for them to develop. I understand the argument with what they've spent. Should they have a world-class squad full of players that are ready to go? The argument is they could have that, but that isn't what they've gone for. I'm judging it on what they're doing rather than what I would have preferred them to have done. You get where I'm coming from? I think sometimes we lack the ability to do that. So, but I do agree with you. Chelsea fans pointing at the money Arsenal have spent then puts them in a world of trouble from having a credible leg to stand on if they don't put similar pressures on their own club because they've spent more. In fact, I think Clearlake has spent almost double what Arteta has spent in half the time. So just don't use that as your argument in the conversation. Just admit Arsenal are better and there's a higher expectation. Terry, why is money spent so important to you and factoring in sporting success? It's massive. It is important. It is important, but you've got to recognize the plan in place. So again, nothing is monolithic. Nothing is consistent across. You can't be. When people do this whole keep the same energy, treat everybody the same. It's impossible. You can't treat everybody the same. I wouldn't treat my wife how I treat my daughter. I wouldn't treat my brother how I treat my dad. I wouldn't treat my dad how I treat my best friend. I wouldn't treat my best friend how I treat the delivery driver. I don't treat the delivery driver how I treat the woman that delivered my children. We live in this really weird world at the moment where people are just saying things that have never existed and shouldn't exist, and we need to shut it down. So Chelsea have gone for a different approach to Arsenal. Therefore, I have a different expectation on them in this particular moment in time, in this little window, this little corridor we sit in. But why is money being spent so important? Because United are my example here. United have spent almost as much as anybody in the last decade. Our wage bill has been colossal up until now. It's actually low now. First time it's ever been lower than Arsenal's in the Premier League era. And that's because we are trying to strip it back and rebuild. Time will tell if that works. But when you spend as much money as the biggest, the most successful teams in Europe, I expect to yield results. When our approach has been to try and buy players to win in that moment, I expect you to deliver against that. Both the manager, the players, and more importantly, the people running the football club. The Michael Edwards of this world, the Baradas of this world, the Bertas of this world, they're the most important people at football clubs in the modern day era. We just don't understand it as English football fans because we still live in the Cloughy, Fergie, Paisley, Shankly era where the manager runs the club, the manager is the most important part. I just don't believe they are anymore. So it's very, very important to understand that and go through it. I feel like the enjoyment now seems to be in bantering others, and that means downplaying your own team's achievements because hyping things up leads to the possible banter down the line, sucks the fun out of the game. Oh, yes. God, I see people now, and Arsenal are probably the group that have been impacted the most. They win a game well and they come on and it's almost like they're too scared to smile in case another big Arsenal content creator clips them up and goes in on them and then gives them crap, and then people are in their DMs just because they're happy over a win. I think it's a really sad way to go through things. I also think a lot of people that get angry at their clubs, one of the biggest reasons they're angry isn't about winning the game or the trophy, is they want to be able to use their football club as an accessory to be able to gloat with. I'm a better person because that's my football team. I know more about football because look at how good my football team is. I am a more successful person because my team is winning football matches. This is, do you want to know how crazy that is? Andrew Lloyd Webber is one of the most successful singer-songwriters, musicians, lyricists, and sort of producers of entertainment the world has ever known. And so is his brother, Julian Lloyd Webber, is also an amazing composer and a musical artist. They support Leyton Orient. Their football club had no impact on them being successful or not. You know what I'm saying? You pick your team. I see City fans do it, and I wonder what's changed where they're like, I'm not looking forward to this season. Why? Because we can't win the league. So what's the point, really? These men are in their 40s. I'm thinking somewhere along the line, there's an argument to say success can kill your love of the game when you're not winning. Because these same City fans love their football club and went to every game when they were in League One and League Two. And no matter how bad it got, they love their club. Yet no matter now, they've won leagues and they've tasted the finest success they can get. Now they're almost writing off seasons and not bothered about what's going on because they don't think they can get back to that level again. There's a conversation to be had there. I think it's insanity. Amorim wasn't sacked when we lost the Europa Terry. The manager who was won was sacked. Also, I gifted another 5 memberships. I thank you, bro, for gifting 5 more memberships. That means a great deal. It's very important to the terrace that people like yourself do that. So a big thank you to you. I understand why people wanted him gone. I get it. And I was someone that said, give him a summer, buy him more, and let's see where we were. That was my view. And so far it hasn't worked out. I keep getting told by aggregators that Terry Flewers supports the manager staying. I'm not for him staying, but I'm not the reason why I'm not advocating hard for him to go is because I don't want to be in the same pen. I don't want to be in the same group as the outers, because most of the outers that I listen to are snake oil salesmen that are pushing this narrative that it fixes everything. And I just can't abide that. I can't do it. I can't do that at all. It bothers me something chronic that people think that. Terry Southgate would be a disaster. He did nothing with a golden generation of players. You see, when you say he did nothing, when you say he did nothing, I disagree. He helped rebuild England to a point where we expected something. So therefore, I can't advocate for the idea that he did nothing, because he certainly did something. He certainly helped us in that regard. But I think where you have a point is, will he get us over the line? But I'm at a point, Robert, where I don't think there is a manager in the world that we could sign who could help implement a style, help fix the squad, help fix the culture, and get us over the line. I almost think we need a sacrificial lamb or two. I almost think we need a manager that's going to make us go, well, this ain't going to work. Because most managers we brought in, we thought were going to work, and it's gone the opposite way. There's just something about it that feels right. Bro hates my negative against Arsenal. Listen, you can say what you want. I don't hate you being negative against Arsenal. I just don't like banter being considered real punditry, and it started to creep into the game, and it bothers me. Do me a favor, please, people, and hit that like button and make sure you are subscribing to the show. It's like the Liverpool situation. All we keep hearing. I want to speak a little bit about Liverpool before we go to our calls, because Liverpool, the Liverpool situation is so interesting for me because they are, and how do I say this? They're not lucky, like people keep trying to point out. They're not lucky. They haven't been lucky. I don't quite understand where people are coming from with this. Sorry, I'm just writing something. My apologies. I don't get it. I don't get this notion that they're on that there's a problem with them. I don't get it. And maybe it stems a little bit from fans wanting that to be the case. Maybe it stems from fans wanting them to be bad, wanting them to struggle, wanting them to flop, etc., etc. Maybe that is where a lot of this stems from, and that very much could be true. That very much could be true. But I'm watching them and I think to myself, they're nowhere near top gear, and they're going to. I was watching CBS earlier today, and someone on CBS said it was one of the funniest things I've ever heard. And it was one of the funniest things I've ever heard because essentially what was said was they're overrated. They've been really lucky. This isn't sustainable. That being said, they're nowhere near their best level and they'll probably find it. So I'm just sitting there as a listener and thinking, hang on. Hang on a minute. Hang on a wee minute. Does that make sense, anyone? No. How can they be overrated, lucky, not very good, and going to be found out if you also believe that they will get back to their absolute best level? That, for me, is the definition of sitting on a fence with an opinion. You can't go, you're overrated. You're overrated. You're not very good. You're going to let us down until you don't let us down, which I don't think you'll always do. And one day you'll be great again. The fuck kind of feedback is that? It's people trying to create something out of nothing. Liverpool haven't been at their overall best. Last night, though, they were pretty good. They conceded a goal that was offside, shouldn't have stood. Funny how no one's talking about that part. They then conceded a goal that had a massive deflection in it. They hit the post twice in the game and should have put it to bed. Then they scored a third goal to win the game, and everyone's like, "You're lucky, you're lucky, you're lucky. This ain't sustainable." Yeah, they're not going to concede offside goals like that every week. Mo Salah more often than not is going to bury that chance that he had. So I sort of look at this and I think to myself, like the Burnley game. Look how they dominated, just couldn't convert. They'll start converting those chances. Newcastle away, yeah, they scored with that really late goal. And they weren't the better team on the night. But that happens every season. First game of the season, cruising, better team, at a mad 10, 15 minutes and conceded, regrouped, went down the other end and scored 2 goals. Yes, there's a record. 5 games won with a goal in the last 5 minutes of the game. The last 3 games have literally done it in time added on. It's a little bit unprecedented in terms of the order of that. They've had a lot of that early on in the season. But as I've asked everybody all along, do you think their form's going to turn around? Do you think they're going to become a better team? Do you think they're going to deliver? Do you think overall they're going to deliver? Yeah, I do. Then what are we doing here? If you think, at least give a full opinion. And that's what I'm not seeing. I am not seeing a sort of full, and I'm not really seeing like a full and frank opinion, if that makes sense, on particular players. I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing a sort of half-hearted attempt at rage bait. Oh, you think they're overrated? You think they're lucky? You think they're going to be found out? Yeah. You don't think they're going to come good this season? You don't think they're going to turn it around soon? Well, I'm not saying that. So what are you saying then? At least go all in. At least, if you're wrong, you're wrong. But it's crazy to me. And I want to speak a little bit on Wirtz as well, because, Wirtz has had a lot of stick this season. He's had a lot of criticism this season. He's had a lot of people go in on him this season. And by the way, I don't know what those stats are on my screen. They can't be right. Are they right? Maybe. I don't know. Oh, hang on. They did change. Hang on. Sorry. There they go. There they go. They're back. Like, he hasn't had a great start to his time at Liverpool. But do you know what's really funny? I'm watching people do to Wirtz the opposite of what they do to Bruno Fernandes. It's so funny to watch, right? Is you're ignoring some of the touches, some of the runs, some of the layoffs, some of the play. Yesterday, I thought very, very good. I thought very, very good yesterday. It was class. Should have got the assists as well. It's not his fault that Mo Salah doesn't score the goal. We can't ignore that element. But with Ferry and Wirtz, everything's GA. And just, if you want to know the remedy to debating these people, Liverpool fans, is don't react. Store what they say. Screenshot it, bookmark it, save it, add it up. It's all about stats. These will be the same people, the same awful pundits, the same terrible content creators. When Bruno ends up on 40 odd GA next, or maybe one get out 30, they'll be like, yeah, but what else does he do other than get GA? So, bro, he don't pass the eye test. He does nothing else, just that padding. Yet those same people ignore all the other things that Wirtz did. I see it go on right now with Noni and Saka. The amount of people that would come on my channel and go, yeah, Terry, but what's Saka? When he ain't scoring them winners, what else did he do? Well, what else did he do? What do you mean by what else did he do? Like, he's not a constant threat. He didn't take the game by the scruff of the neck. He's not constantly running at his fullback. You know, he isn't someone who's sort of trying to be decisive. It's just, he'll be quiet, and then cross the ball in very well. Someone heads a goal and he gets the GA. Cool. Same people watch Noni Madueke and go, where's the GA? Where's the output? I don't care about the dribbling and how dangerous he was, how much of a threat he was. I don't care how hard he made Kirkes work, how hard he made whoever work, right? I don't remember all the fullbacks he played against. All I care about is there's no GA. And look, there are some players who will hit that utopian both, where the eye test is passed, the consistency for 90 minutes is there, and they've got high GA. Do you know how rare those players are? They're rocking horse shit. So again, if we subscribe to that way of viewing football, you're going to end up hating 99.9% of all players. And if you hate most of the players, you're not going to enjoy football because you're not going to like the way the team plays and the way they deliver because of the individuals. You're going to destroy the game. I think it was fun for a bit of banter for a while, you know, Penandes and all that stuff. But I think we're taking it too far. I really do. And some will say, Terry, you're trying to stop banter, let people have banter, let people say what they want. And that's a fair opinion to hold. But I personally think we're hurting the game. For me, I think Wirtz, I wouldn't call him a flop so far this season. I wouldn't say he's been amazing. I don't think he's sort of set the world alight as of yet. But he's a young player who's adapting to a new league, new team, new system. He played very well last night. He's finding his feet. I think him and Isak will work very, very well together. There seemed to be a little spark with them yesterday. And as much as it's a Liverpool player and I want to jump on this, my reason for not doing it is because the more we do it, the more it's going to be done to my players and so on and so forth. And it just becomes a perpetual, boring, rubbish cycle. So I'll give you an example. We were on a show the other day and Newcastle scored. Voldemar scored. And Ash had a little joke and went, hey, Sesko's still on no goals. And we laughed. We went, cheers. And we laughed. And that was the end of it. That's how banter has always been. It wasn't, do you think there's something in that? Well, it wasn't like a half an hour conversation was created about that obscurity, that little nuanced bit of information. It was just a passing comment, a little dig. We all laughed. We got on with our lives. Where has that gone from our game? Dead. Absolutely dead. Viewers, do me a favor, please, and hit like buttons. We're going to bring out some callers in a few minutes. Hit some like buttons. Let us know what you're thinking and feeling about the show today. Let's do some of these comments that have come in here. Do you think Amorim would be successful at Liverpool or Arsenal? More so, yes, he'd be more so, especially with the squad that Liverpool have got now, barring a lack of centre-backs. Yeah, I mean, he'd have Frimpong and he could have Kirkes playing as wing-backs. That midfield, you put Gravenberch and you put Szoboszlai in central midfield as a two that can cover the ground, animalistic in that way. What you could then have is, like, who would you play? Like, Mo Salah's the difficulty, but you could have Mo Salah and Wirtz playing as your 10s and just have Mo Salah, like, dropping out into those wide pockets, still using the overlap, and then, like, Isak as the number 9. Yeah, it would work. They could adapt to that system quite easily, and they have top quality players, a world-class midfield that would make it work. Would it be as good as Slot? I don't know. But it certainly win a lot more games than he does at United. A lot more games, in my personal opinion. Right, first caller of the day. I'm bringing on KJ is joining us soon. But I'm going to bring on Abdul. I'm intrigued to know what Abdul's got to say to us today. Abdul, welcome back to the Terrace, mates. Thank you very much for being here. What do you want to say?
Yo, Terry, can you hear me?
Yes, my bro. What do you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, bro, I'll be real. I've been waiting for a long time, and you pick me right when I'm like in an area where like the connection ain't great. So if I cut out, just put me backstage and then bring me back out in like a couple of minutes. All right?
Okay, no worries.
I want to actually, you know, I consume a lot of your content, and I consume a lot of United content. And I just want to challenge some of your takes in general, because I disagree with some of your takes on the Amorim situation, to be honest. You mentioned this thing with snake oil. You mentioned this thing with snake oil a lot. And I disagree with the notion because I follow a lot of United content creators. I read the chats, I read the comments. And honestly, from what I get as a neutral, most people who want Amorim out they don't argue that sack Amorim and everything will be fine. a lot of people, like yesterday on the show with Hossam and Mo, you said that United fans are impatient, but I disagree. I actually think United fans are patient. Like, how many fan bases would stomach finishing 15th and the manager lose a European final to Spurs? I actually think, like, going into the season, a lot of United fans, they were optimistic, but last season did happen. And like, it's in the back of the mind, you know. I actually think United fans, they are patient, but they want a manager who they can see progress with. Like, there's a difference between, you keep saying the snake oil thing, but I think what a lot of people who are frustrated with Amorim, they just want a manager who they can believe in, a manager who shows progress, not a manager who's going to win the league from day one. And you bring up also, I just want to challenge this other take. You bring up a lot of the failings of the past. Like, you say that there's been 6 or 7 managers that you sacked under the old regime. But I'm just wondering, like, why do you keep referring back to the past and the past failings when you have a new footballing people in charge? Like, the failings of Ed Woodward and co shouldn't dictate what Ineos do now going forward. Like, if Amorim isn't showing progress, you shouldn't look back and say, oh, Ed Woodward's signings as managers, that shouldn't hinder you in correcting this mistake. Because I look at the managers that Man United have hired, and I know a lot of people go on with Mourinho, Van Gaal, but what has these managers actually gone on to do after Man United? Like what has these managers gone on to achieve? Because look at with Ten Hag, Man United fans spent 3 years debating whether he's good enough. It took Leverkusen 2 games and 60 days to realize that he wasn't it.
Okay, so let me just jump in for a second. So again, with the Ten Hag thing, when you read about the sacking, a lot of that was to do with relationships that he had with people at the club. There was just butting heads from day one, more so than the footballing side of things. So is it very important to understand that? So let's just address a few things. We'll start with the last point around why do I look back at the past? Because for me, the past helps us learn and guides us for the future. It's a guidepost for the future, that the past is, because we have to make sure that we are not advocating or pushing for, as fans, and ensuring and pushing and demanding that the ownership don't make the same mistakes we've seen in the past. So for instance, you've made a great point. We've gone after a couple of managers that there was a lot of excitement about at that time. Ten Hag was one of them. Most people in the world thought, wow, look, it will do. Even Rangnick. I remember the live show. We were in the studio in London. We had a live Friday night on the Terrace show, and Rangnick was announced. And the entire audience that night, the comments were like, I'm worried. This guy taught the likes of Klopp. He's going to do X, Y, and Z. I know he wasn't a young up-and-coming manager, but there was an excitement about him coming in. So it's about sometimes bringing in what we need rather than what we want or what excites us. Why it's also important to look at the past is because if we haven't, is legacy issues. So at the end of the day, I went through this myself in the banking industry. The people that got the banking industry into the mess that it was in, a lot of them were gone, left, retired. None of them went to prison when they should have done, but they weren't running the bank anymore. But the issues that they created still lived on and still had to be fixed. So if you don't look back and you don't understand, and you don't have a deep enough understanding of what those mistakes were, 1, you can repeat them again. 2, it's harder to fix them. And 3, what I find so interesting about not looking back is the same very people that hate you looking back in these debates going, well, why are you worried about the mistakes you made in the past? They're the same people that are also looking back to achieve the standards that we used to get to. So I not only do I look back on our past mistakes, I look back on the things we did well and what I want them repeated. I look over at what Liverpool are doing, and I don't want us to do, we can't do what Liverpool did this summer now. What we have to look back on is what Liverpool did in 2010 when they started rebuilding their club. We have to look back on what City did. We have to look back on what teams that were broken did at the beginning to get themselves back to the top. But if you don't look back, and if you don't use your past and other people's past, good, bad, or indifferent, as a guidepost, you'll fail. And culture does that. Religion does that. Everything, most things you do in your life are all, the way you live is based on things that have happened before you learning from them and becoming better, or using the great things from the past to ensure you're a good and better person. So I don't understand why we wouldn't use that exact same logic when trying to fix a football club. You have to look to the past to help you in the future. And I think that when I look at the reports that have come out now about the players not wanting this manager and downing tools and the training methods, that's a massive red flag, because we've seen that with every single coach so far. Now, you may argue that all of those coaches may have been wrong. And what did I used to say? What did I used to say to you to that argument back then? Because I know that you and other people phoned in back then and said, what if you just pick 4 or 5 bad managers and the next one isn't? What was my argument to that? That hasn't changed. What was it?
It was isn't it the saying, like, you said, like, if you don't change the culture, like, nothing is going to change.
Well, it was partly that, but also, let's just say we have just picked another dud. There's nothing wrong with the squad. The culture's fine. We've just picked another bad manager.
No, but Terry, but that's my issue. But Terry, one second.
Go on.
But this is like, I consume a lot of your content, bro. Like, I'm a fan. Call me a fan, yeah. But like, this is one of my issues with your style of argumentation, is that you always take things to the extreme.
What's extreme about what I just said?
No, because you said, oh, this manager's going to come in and solve everything. Okay. But it's not about coming in and solving everything.
But I agree. But I agree with you. So me and you agree with each other. Me and you are on the same page. I think I'm not saying don't sack Ruben Amorim. I'm saying to fans, please focus on the bigger issues, because the manager of our club in the last 12 years, 13 years has never been our biggest issue. And we know it just hasn't been. Squad recruitment, I think, has been a bigger problem. Culture has been been a bigger problem. Player power has been a bigger problem. So if there's a Man United fan, I don't know who they all are. If you're watching another content creator who says, I want him to go, but I still know we need to improve the squad, I still know it's going to take 2 or 3 years to fix this, I do know that there isn't a silver bullet that's going to fix us overnight, then I'm in agreement with them. But I'm talking about the individuals, and I'm not mentioning no names. And the reason I'm not mentioning any names is because they'll just use it as an opportunity to make content themselves, and I'm just not giving them that opportunity to do that. But I'm just warning against it. I agree with you. Yeah. That isn't. But what it also, when you go on about extremities, I'm talking about individuals who are very, very influential and shouldn't do that.
Yeah, but Terry, let
me just finish. The other end of that spectrum about extremities is I then get my words then get twisted into, why are you defending Amorim and why do you want him to stay? I've never said that once. So I'm being accused of things that I haven't said. I'm only calling out things that people have said. If there's a Man United fan who hasn't said that, then I'm not talking about them. There's nothing for them to worry about in terms of my criticism.
But I can give you like an example of like an extremity, for example.
Go on.
You mentioned this whole thing with a lot of people wanted Ten Hag gone because he adapted to the players, and therefore you find fans who want Amorim to go because he's not adapting, to be hypocritical. But my issue with that is, again, it's very extreme in the sense that every manager needs to adapt. Managing is adapting. You know, it's actually like, I feel like the two words, they go with each other. Like, no manager comes into a squad that's fully his. So to some degrees, you do have to adapt. And this is where I feel like you're taking it to the extreme, because Amorim should adapt to some degree. Nobody's saying change everything, but for the time being, he should adapt. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with demanding that a manager should adapt, you know?
I don't disagree. I've never disagreed with that.
No, but I did hear you, as I said, I watch a lot of your content. I did hear you recently say that people wanted Ten Hag gone because he adapted, but he didn't just adapt. He threw away his philosophy. There's a difference between.
I agree. I agree with that. I agree with that. So for me, again, what I think you're missing in what I've said, and maybe once I say this, you'll remember and you'll go, there'll be some common ground here, is that I'm calling out the people that asked for somebody that was regimented, that has a style, that implements it, that doesn't yield from it. That is what was being demanded during Jose's time, during Ollie's time, and during Ten Hag's time. Patterns of play, style of play, style of play, style of play. I said it earlier on in this show, ironically, I didn't know you were phoning in, that I've now adjusted my opinion and said I was wrong. And I think what we might need to fix our club is someone that does adjust quite heavily to the players in the beginning, as long as the club are supporting him by improving that squad. And there's a limitation to that. It almost doesn't matter, within reason, what he does. In 2 years, that manager is going to be moved on for somebody of a higher level. My issue with Pete fans, and it's just, you're critiquing my opinion, same difference, is people that don't admit they were wrong. Everything is about, I'm right. And I think this is, football fans have become very influential online. We know that players listen. We know that clubs listen because there's interactions between them, and we see this. And I think it's important for people to be intellectually honest when it comes to their conversation. People demand something, get it, don't like it, and then act like they've been wronged, rather than saying to their audiences, and some of them speak to millions of people a month, I was wrong about this, guys. I wanted it the whole time. It hasn't quite worked. I now realize that isn't the right direction for us, and have honest conversations. Everything is, oh man, I can't believe they defrauded us like this. How have they defrauded us? Oh, this guy's come in, promised this, and it isn't happening. This is wrong. This isn't that. And then they just go the other end, which is, this is not how you run a football club. You need someone that's adapting. You need someone that will one week be pragmatic, the next week will attack. And I'm like, that's not what you were saying. So when it comes to calling out individuals and having debate with them, there is a complete 180 from them. What I am doing, I wanted someone this time, and I said it because I wanted something different. I now look at it and go, well, that didn't work. That looks like it hasn't worked either. I can hold my hands up. I actually, I'm not against the adaptation, which is why I advocated for Thomas Frank going to Tottenham. I think a lot of clubs and squads need that. One thing I was wrong about, and I always address things that I'm wrong about, is I thought our squad was average. I was wrong. Our squad's terrible. So we maybe do need someone that can adapt for a period of time, but we have to put limitations on it. You can't just adapt forever, because at some point you want a better style of play to try and win. To your earlier point, before I go to the other calls, what was the first thing you mentioned?
It was the snake oil thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the snake oil thing. Yeah, and as I say, and if you're listening to other Man United fans and they're not doing that, then I'm not talking about them. Listen, Abdul, great call, my friend. Great challenge as well. Enjoyed it a lot.
Man, no worries, man. No worries.
Top
Take
man.
care.
Thank you, bro. Cheers, my man. Thank you very much indeed. This is Terry. Have we been adjusting to players that only play when they want to? Yes. That's also another part of this. Let's bring KJ out on the show now, and Ash out on the show with us as well. Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. How are you both?
Nervous. KJ, you muted.
Oh, yeah, you got your game tonight. I forgot.
I have not. I'm shitting myself. Oh, KJ,
you're still muted, KJ. There we go. Now you're with us.
Okay, yeah, there we go. Yeah, no, all good. That was a good chat. Surprisingly,
someone's banging their mic on their table.
It ain't me. It's the Ash brother. You know,
must be Ash.
Oh wait, my mic's
yeah.
My mic's next to my monitor, so I think it's knocking it.
Yeah, there we go. I could hear something.
Yeah. But no, I actually appreciated some of the things that Abdul says, and that's a rarity. If you're still watching Abdul, you know what I mean. We've been back and forth quite a bit over the years, but you made some excellent points. And one thing I wanna talk about, what you've mentioned is this idea of players down in tools. Because personally, let me ask you a question, Terry. Let me ask you a question before I go into what I say. When is it that when you look on the pitch that it's the players down in tools versus the manager's way of playing doesn't work? When does that scale tip, in your opinion?
It's a really good point. It's something I've never thought about, as in I've never sat there and given it much thought, so it's hard to give a comprehensive answer. I suppose for me, I start looking at it when people tracking their runners. When Luke Shaw got squared up the other day and got taken on easy, did he turn around and bust the gut to get back in? Those are little things that I look at as an example. You can also sit on an attacking sense. People often point these things out when it comes to defending, but I think you have to also look at them from an attacking standpoint. So, for instance, Noni Madueke is a great example at the moment of someone that he keeps trying to take people on. It doesn't work. He keeps going. We've got a Newcastle fan here, so I use that as an example. Anthony Gordon's very similar. The man just doesn't stop. He's an energizer bunny. He could lose his first 10 duels. He keeps going. Man United's players tried that start. We tried that pattern. We tried that run. We tried that move. It didn't work. I've seen us go 20 minutes into games, look really good, Fulham. And then for the next 35, 40 minutes, We look like we can't kick a ball. Now, it may just be that Fulham have worked us out and, they've moved a man inside and it completely breaks down the whole system. I also look at that as, are those players running through brick walls? I go back to something Ruben Amorim. Now, Ruben Amorim has said that right now he thinks the players are giving all the effort. He also told us that Rasmus was part of the future and Onana was his number one. So I don't take everything they say in press conferences seriously. I remember how angry he was when we went away to Liverpool. And he just said, if we could work like that in every game, we'd win more matches. And I agree with him. I think that this is why I think someone like, I would love Diego Simeone to come in and in a month's time quit and tell everyone these players are fucking lazy bastards. We can't play the way they played last night because our players don't want... They weren't full of speed merchants in their team last night. They weren't full of players that you'd look at and go, oh, look how fast they are. What they had was 11 players plus subs that would run through brick walls. And yes, part of that is maybe it's because he's a great guy and a great coach, and Amorim's not. But from my point of view and perspective, this is where I do agree with Roy Keane. It shouldn't take that. It shouldn't take a professional sports, the manager, to make you want to work hard. You're there as an athlete, once in a lifetime opportunities. You've got 10 years on average at the highest level. You know, you can't do, my coach annoys me with some of the things he says, therefore I'm not going to work hard. I just can't accept it. So I think there's a mixture. And sometimes it is the system. There's no doubt about it. But I look at it this way. The way we played against Liverpool away was because on that day, everybody run their bollocks off. The start of the game against City, we worked our bollocks off. Do our players want to work that hard for 90 minutes? I'm not sure, KJ. I'm not sure.
No, and that's fair. That's some good points in there. And I think I'm just in this place where I'm kind of... I agree with when you're defending, when you're attacking, are we trying to go at people in the same way? Are we going at the fullbacks and we're going at are we defending correctly? But from what I've seen this season, this season, and I've been here for 5 years on the terrace and I've been a United fan all my life. So I've seen many, many games. For me personally, I'm not seeing downing tools on the pitch. Personally, I don't see, I've seen it when under Jose was probably the worst time for it. They'll lose a ball. You know what I mean? Things are just standing there. No one's really moving. We've seen players literally beef with the manager in training. You see on the pitch the way that we're playing. So I've seen Man United players properly down tools and try and get a man sacked. I've seen it. I'm not sure if I'm seeing it right now. And that is where I'm torn. Because I'm like, could they put in more effort? I believe they can. I believe that there is some times where you can just push a little bit harder. But then there's other times like against Man City where you talk about doing the same thing and repeating things occurring. We were doing the repeating thing, switch out to the wide wing backs, and the wing backs trying to cross it in. Ahmad obviously cutting onto his left, and Dorgu trying to cross it first time or at some point with his left foot. So we were also repeating the same systemic ways that we attack, and they just weren't working. So I'm just at this point where I'm like, just because results aren't going a certain way doesn't automatically also mean the players aren't trying. And the biggest problem that we've probably got, because if the players are trying their best, the biggest problem, they're just not good enough. And that's a different conversation altogether, because then that gets shifted over to the recruitment, and the structure and stuff. But in terms of the players, I don't believe they're down in tools per se. I just think that they are struggling because they're not as good as they probably thought they were. They weren't as good as what we felt they were. And football IQ wise, this system is difficult. It's not normal, I'm not going to sit and say we've seen this happen all the time, because if we did, it'll be easy to scout for this system. We could probably pick up a midfielder for 15 million that fits it, because it's such a common occurrence. So yeah, I don't think they're down in tools. The leaks to the press are a problem. Now, some of it is embellished, I believed, because one of the reports is even Bruno Fernandes is not liking this, and he doesn't like his position. It's Bruno Fernandes. He's the captain of the club. He's part of the leadership group. He's been by Amorim's side since day one. Do I think he's upset with his position? Maybe. but I don't think it's to the point where he's like, I'm not doing this no more because I see him trying every game, you know. So I feel there's also a bit of embellishment from the media.
I'm going to go to Ash, right? I'm going to go to Ash, and I agree with like big bits of what you said. This is the thing about downing tools. I'm just using a colloquial term. What does it actually mean? So my view of it is this, right? And again, it's what I've witnessed in my professional career. I've seen it in my sporting career. When people don't quite believe in things, one failure and they go, see, I told you, and they don't work as hard. And I've seen that when I sold phones. I've seen it in the bank. I've seen it during Team GB. I remember we had a new head coach, and he had this. He was very big up, Mr. Tierney, if you're watching. He had this. He became the head coach, and he set the precedent for all the coaches, and he implemented a rule at a World Championships, and he was very strict because we'd gone through 3 World Championships on the bounce, where England used to be in the top 3 in terms of total medal haul every year. The previous 2 years, we'd come like 6th and 9th, something along those lines. Me and my team had won our medals. We were good, but like everyone else let people down. So they changed things up, and Joe was very strict. He'd come over from a different association called WACO. Now, WACO was a higher level than the one we were in at the time. Well, say that, yes, the World Championships, WACO and WK were the same, but the World Championships were a higher level because to qualify, you didn't just need to win one tournament. It was like multiple tournaments you had to win, and it was only the best person that went. So it was a smaller tournament, but a very elite end tournament, if that made sense. I won over there as well, by the way, people. I won in both. So I just want to point that out. Like Terry won in both. So it's and Iasca I won in as well, and WUMA. So all 4 associations I won British, European, and world medals in. So thank you all. But Joe came across from WACO, and the standards were very high. And the team training would happen every couple of months. You'd go to either Manchester or Sheffield. The whole team would be there, and it wouldn't be mad training. It would be more just unifying training. You come and do some sessions. And we could just see that the intensity was higher and the intensity was harder. Then we got to the World Championships, and there was always this. You get there, you settle in for a day. Then there's a big team meeting. It was always on a Tuesday or sometimes Wednesday morning. Competing started Thursday afternoon. And he said, it was a message to fighters. He said, any fighter in the juniors or adult section that turns up to their fight not sweating, so they haven't warmed up to the point where they're sweating, we will not let you compete. And some people were like, well, if I turn up that sweaty, I'm going to be too tired. I'm going to lose. And a few people did. A few people like lost their first fight. And they were like, it's because I was tired, because I warmed up too hard. And you saw lots of people get like they pushed against it and didn't want to do it. And it started a little bit of a mutiny, and it started a problem. And it was just because no one bought into Joe from the beginning. Does that make sense? There was I ain't sure about this. I don't know if it's going to work. A couple of bad results, and it was, it's not working, is it? And it took some really good fighters to win still, to go, actually, guys, I felt better. It's the quickest I've ever felt. They got on with him, and it did help. So it's when I look at these examples, I get where you're coming from. My concern is this, because they're already going to the media, half of them are challenging it. Is it when 20 minutes into a game, it hasn't quite yielded a goal, or they can see the big chance? Are the players going, I knew this wouldn't work? And then their energy levels or their effort levels, whether it's conscious or subconscious, drops 10% and we're finished. Because I look at the way Newcastle play, I look at how Arsenal play, I look at how Liverpool play, by and large. And most of the time you can see from the first minute to the last minute, they believe in what they're doing. Our players consistently look like they believe for 10, 20 minutes, and then they don't believe. And there's something, and maybe we go 2 or 3-0 down, then you see the effort levels go up. Maybe that's the pride that kicks in. So they start working a bit harder. And I'm like, how come you weren't winning any of these presses when we were 1-0 down, but you go 3-0 down, then you're winning them? Something about it for me. So I get where you're coming from. I just don't trust this group of players, I'll be honest with you, KJ. For me, it feels like letting a fox near your hen house.
Yeah, no, that's fair. How many of the players of the past do you think needs to go for this to stop? Because we're still in the process of getting rid of like bad mentality players. I think we've done the best job this summer getting rid of like the Sanchos, the Rashfords, Garnachos.
Yeah.
So how many more do you think need to?
I think it might be another window, because I don't think you'll get a lot of this from the new players. I think it will be more the old heads. But remember, you can infect new people really quickly. So I still think from this point, I still say about 60, 65%. 60 to 65% more.
Does that include anyone from when Ineos have bought him?
Potentially. But potentially, it depends whether or not they're, because again, we change styles and change managers. So you might have someone that was bought for Ten Hag who's like, but this ain't going to work for me. I don't like it. And that's the issue with continuing changing directions. If we keep changing, this is why we break, KJ. We change direction, and then you might get a brand new percentage of the squad go, well, fuck this. This ain't for me. And by the way, as individuals, we're all selfish like that. You know, if I sold the Football Terrace and then suddenly it's like, listen, KJ, you're still going to have a job, but this is now your role. And you're sitting there, you're like, none of that is in my wheelhouse. I don't know how to do any of that. I'm going to do a bad job. The things I'm good at, I'm not getting to do anymore. You might completely buy into their ideas and work your backside off. They could be part of you. And by the way, you and I are human. Look how me and you used to be with a man like Valnet. Like, we worked hard because it was still, I think, but look how we were because we didn't trust and believe in them. And now I'm not saying that was right or wrong. They were actually arseholes, to be fair. But but you get my point. It was in our heads. We were just like, fuck them. We'll do our bit for us. But we're like, I ain't doing that. And I'm not saying I've never behaved this way. I haven't felt this way. I just think that's what goes on. And by the way, I'm not even blaming the players. I actually understand it because I've been through it. I've either witnessed it, I've experienced it. I've done it at times in my life. When you don't believe in someone, it is hard. But we're never going to get a group that completely believes in a vision, or 75-80% believes in a vision, if we keep changing directions, because you never complete that squad build that believes in it. So I think it's a combination of two things. So, Ash, what do you make of it, bro?
So from the start, I'm not a big fan of Amorim's system of three at the back. I've never really been a massive fan of that. But obviously, at the end of the day, he was got in with the knowledge that that's the system he's going to run. I think there still needs to be a lot of time for all the players to settle. Like Cunha's been out, still got Sesko to settle in properly and get a partnership up with, say, either the likes of Cunha, obviously Mbeumo, which will come in, and obviously Lamens hasn't even been on the pitch yet. Like, I think at the end of the day, I've always said this, right? A goalkeeper makes such a big difference, even for your defense. If he comes in and he's a really strong keeper, like what I've seen his stats and stuff are, and if he does keep up those levels, I bet you any money, you guys by Christmas time are going to be saying something different. And all it's going to take is a few, say, get rid of Luke Shaw, get rid of Harry Maguire, a few of these players, get some better quality down the left or whatever, and you're going to see, you're actually going to see a difference. Granted, do I see Amorim being that solution long term? I personally probably not, but obviously that's not my club. It's not my manager, so not my problem.
No, that's fair. I think there's a phrase I heard recently, and it's basically ideas are great. Great ideas fall down when there's not good implementation, and then also vice versa. You can have great implementation, but if the idea is bad, it doesn't matter how well you do it, it's just going to be bad because the idea is awful. And this is what I'm wondering with Man United, where are we at? Because I feel like if you take Man United when we had like Jose, for example, the idea was there. Premier League winner, experienced, taken over with a squad that's just won an FA Cup. They just won, and then a year down the line, you win the FA Cup. You win the Carabao Cup and you're the Europa League and you're in Champions League. The idea was there. The implementation of that idea was poor because we executed it poorly as a club.
Yeah.
Now I feel like we're in the reverse, where the implementation, I think, is actually good. Ineos, the way that they try to support Ten Hag, the way that they try to support Amorim, is actually good. The recruitment, I actually think, has been all right, barring like Ugarte and Xerxes still got a question mark over his head. I'm actually happy with the signings that we've signed. Like,
and the new training ground.
The new training ground, they've got the but now the question is the idea good outside of the implementation?
And that's a great point, because I saw a lot of Man United. I saw Goldbridge getting mental today. It was making me laugh about the money side of things. And I'm one of the people that, again, I'm probably in the middle of the people that he dislikes on this and okay with. I'm not buzzing about the money like it's a new signing or like we just won a football match or like we won a trophy. But I do look at it as someone who is very focused on the finances within football of all clubs. I love that sort of stuff. We have, our losses 2 years ago were like 100+ million a year. It's down to like 18 million. People kind of forget that those big reductions in operating costs and the employment element were done halfway through last financial year, which means you're going to have a whole, however much you see reduced, that whole reduction level. So next year you won't see a reduction. You will see it'll be about the same level of reduction next year in terms of percentage, but that's because the whole year will be without those overheads. But it means the whole year you're going to be making those savings. So we are going to be in a much better situation financially. We have lowered that wage bill. Why I think that's good is that if you can start rebuilding the squad properly, find KJ's point, the right idea managerially, stylistically to move you forward, it leaves you lots of room and money to keep building upon it. The issue we've had before is that we've started building something. Jose started well. Ollie even did some good things. And then we ran out of money, or we didn't buy when we should have done. We didn't keep going. And then it kind of fell apart again. And you are right. I mean, the other saying to what you've said is, a culture eats strategy for breakfast. And that's also been a big issue at Man United for a long time. So look, Abdul called me out earlier and challenged me, which is fair. I don't have all the answers. I know I'm not right about everything, but the one thing I am sure on, and this is why people see it as defending Amorim, I'm not against sacking him. I'm against changing direction massively, which is why I said on a few videos the last few days, we are finished if this next regime starts doing this and does a bit of a scatter. Okay, we'll try this manager next time. And you might get lucky and you might fall upon something, but I still think ultimately, when it comes to it, you need to sort of stick to something. But where I agree with the Amorim outers, where I do agree with them, the part they're correct on is the level of the amount of wins we get from him. It's so hard to build upon that. I understand why they want him to go. It's just what they're asking for. And maybe I shouldn't react to it the way that I do, but I'm so scared. I am genuinely petrified of Ineos listening and going, okay, let's go De Zerbi. Okay, let's go for Simeone. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, we've done all our money now. Let's go. Well, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to go get Carrick, who ain't ready yet. And then I just worry that we're going to make all the same. And to the point of Abdul, this is why I worry, because he sees it a little bit more like the people I'm sort of challenging. He does why look to the past? Because if you don't know your history, you are destined to repeat those same mistakes again. And I think that we need to be very, very mindful of that. I was happy with the approach with Amorim. Turns out I'm wrong. Maybe we need someone that is a little bit more adaptable. Maybe there's a more middle ground here. I was up for it because it was very different to what we've done in the past. Maybe I went too extreme in my own desperations. That is fair. But this is the one maybe bit when it comes to the discourse I have an issue with, and I scared the clubs following in suit, is that we don't learn and we keep making the same mistakes. That, for me, is problematic.
Yeah. There's a comment here which I want to go off back up, because I agree with this 100%. Daly says, I feel like the clubs haven't got an ethos. It's always buy for the manager, not the club. A technical director needs to be setting this. So to your point, Terry, where you're saying you're scared of us going from this to that, the wild dramatic changes. Why is that in your mind? Because for me, I'm at this point where I believe that they got Amorim at the wrong point of conception. So when I say that, I mean that we should have a set, like Daly says, we should have had the set ethos of what we actually want to do before we get a manager. What actually do we want to achieve? Then we go get a manager to suit that. What we've done is, I don't understand why they've done it, but again, I believe they've got the wrong man to do it with, is we don't have an ethos yet. Let's get a manager we like and build the ethos of him going forward in that. And going forward in the future, we'll use that as our template. I feel like this is we did that too early. Like, we did it the wrong way around, and we need to get into a place where we are like, right, let's say us three now are the structure of Man United. What do we want to achieve? How do we want to do it? Obviously, the aim is to win the Premier League, but how do we want to do that? What is the ethos of our playing style? Is it high pressing? Is it listen? Even is it the best counter-attack that we've ever seen? Like, is it the most possession? Whatever you call it, what is that? Then we all agree. Then we go and get the right guy. But then, Terry, I say we need to do this now. But then that still could be a dramatic swing in your eyes. But technically, it's
Well,
better
yeah, I mean,
for the
it doesn't
club.
matter
You know
what it is.
saying?
It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what it is in my eyes. It matters what it is in reality.
Yeah,
You know, it's if I feel like it's a massive swing and I say it's not going to work and it does work, I'd be very happy to be wrong. I'm only giving an opinion. I'm not one of these. I'm not one of these weak men online now that I can't be wrong about nothing. So I hope that you're right. Look, guys, I've got to go because I've got an appointment before the Champions League games a little bit later. We're going to be back live after those tonight: Newcastle, Barcelona, and of course City, Napoli, which we're all looking forward to. So we'll see you around about 9:30, 9:45 when those go out, 9:45, 10 o'clock when those games end. Gentlemen, the other callers, our super chat, as a big thank you to each and every single one of you. Take care. Goodbye. God bless, and we'll see you.
2-0 Newcastle.